Hello there, it is January 12th, and this is the start of my quarterly book video. I decided I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time around, and instead of just taking notes and then talking to you about the books possibly a month, 2 months later, when I sit down to talk about all of them, I thought I would kind of do it a little bit more vlog style this year and record as I go. And then once I have enough to talk about, I'll put it together into one video to share with you. But this way I can talk about the books as I finish them and they're fresh on my mind, and hopefully give you a little bit better descriptions of them, as well as be able to share my thoughts a little bit better, because I'm not trying to remember what happened in said book from weeks ago when I've read 3 other books between that. I can just talk to you about it right when I finish it, and hopefully this will work better. I got this idea from Samantha March because she did a book video like this where she kind of vlogged it wherever she was, whenever she finished a book, and shared her thoughts on it and then put them all together into one video. So that's the new way I'm going to try and do it for you this year. And I have finished my first book of 2023, and that is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I don't remember how I heard about this one. Maybe it was recommended to me by Goodreads. I could have heard about it on BookTube. I really don't remember. But it was on my TBR list, and I was able to get the ebook from the library. And didn't really remember what it was about. Didn't really know what I was getting into going into it. I wouldn't say, I guess I'm not very good at classifying books, because I don't know if I would say it was a mystery. It definitely wasn't a whodunit mystery. I'd say it was more suspense thriller, but this one got a little bit dark for me. The main character is Claire, and she has multiple sisters, but she is kind of estranged from the rest of her sisters. She does have a relationship with her mother, but they all kind of had struggles and went their separate ways, because when she was a younger girl, I forget the exact age, if she was a kid or high school or college, her other sister went missing. And ever since her other sister went missing, lots of things happened. They went down different paths. One sister struggled with addiction, so wasn't the best situation. So we start learning a little bit about Claire and her life and her husband. And the other part of the story is that not only did her sister go missing, but it seems in this area a lot of girls have gone missing of a particular age. As you go through the story, it gets quite intense, surprising, and there were parts I couldn't even read because I don't know if I would say, I would say that. They have certain scenes with torture, and I'm amazed that I was able to even read and get through this book. And oddly, despite that aspect of it, I did enjoy it. I rated it 4 stars because I think it was a good story. It was just getting beyond those points of what was going on and what happened was challenging at times. But yet, I didn't find it to be scary, if that makes sense. But there were certain parts that when I would come to them, I'd kind of skip a few sentences or skip a paragraph because I didn't want to read about that stuff and have those images in my head. So if you have a hard time with graphic things or those sorts of crime things, this might not be the book for you. But overall, I did enjoy the story, even though it was difficult to read those things and difficult in that it was a little bit sad at times, even tragic. But if you like true crime, I guess, and you listen to like true crime podcasts and things like that, I think you'd be okay with this book. But yeah, those are my thoughts and feelings on it. I might share more with you later, but I've already been rambling on here for 6 minutes, and if I want to be able to get multiple books into a video, I can't ramble on too long. So who knows, these may end up being more than quarterly if I talk about books this long, but I do think that this method is going to work better than me trying to remember just from notes or later on, because I'm telling you about it while it's still very fresh in my mind. So hopefully this format will work. Like I said, it may mean you're getting more book videos from me than just quarterly. If after only 3 books the video ends up being 20 minutes, I don't want to have these be hour-long videos. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And let me know how you would like me to do this. Would you like me to eventually do more of the sit-down videos like I did before with kind of a reading wrap-up? I'm not sure exactly how to go about that, but let me know your suggestions. What do you like watching as far as book content and the way it's presented to you? So, there it is, first book of the year. In the books, no pun intended. Finished, completed. 51 more to go to meet my goal. I'll see you when it's time for the next book. It is January 13th, my bedtime, and I just finished another book. It was an audiobook. It is called Desperately Ever After by Laura Kenyon, and it is part of a series, but this was book 1 and the first one that I read through audiobook. And basically, we're looking into the lives of Cinderella, Belle, Rapunzel are the 3 main ones. Oh, and a character named Penelope, who is supposed to be the princess from The Princess and the Pea. Oh, sorry, and Dawn, who is Sleeping Beauty. And for those of you who like fractured fairy tales, or liked the show Once Upon a Time, I think this book would be for you. And I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it at first, because since it's fractured fairy tales, they take liberty with the characters and change some things. Plus, we're looking at their lives after Happily Ever After. And for some of them, it's not going so happily ever after, unfortunately. Some of them, their lives are not going the way that they would have hoped, and are even having some struggles and some bad things going on. Parts of that were a little bit hard for me to accept at first, because they were doing things to some of my favorite characters that I didn't like them to be doing to them. But I was able to put that aside and look at it as a fractured fairy tale and not as the Disney fairy tales, and that they were the same characters, but this was a different take on things with these characters and what's happening to them after we saw them live happily ever after. One thing I do like about it is that they're all best friends. All these main characters are best friends. Snow White is in it as well, but she's more secondary. She's not really in it very much, or like an integral part to the story. All in all, I ended up really liking it. It became a favorite, a 5-star. I rated it 5 stars. And since it's a series, there are at least 2 more. There may be more than that, but there are at least 2 more that I saw. So I will be looking to read those again at some point. Not again. Ugh, I told you it's bedtime. I will be looking to read those ones at some point as well, just adding more and more to my list of books to read. But I guess that's good that I'm enjoying them. I don't want to give too much away as far as the plot or what happens to the characters in case you're interested in reading it for yourself, but we do follow closely the lives of Rapunzel, Belle, and Cinderella. They're the main 3. Then you hear a little bit about Penelope, a little bit about Dawn or Sleeping Beauty, but they aren't as much of the focus as Cinderella, Rapunzel, and Belle. And yes, I enjoyed the story very much. It was a great audiobook, and again, while I didn't love that it wasn't all happy endings for them, that's much more realistic to real life, and I'm excited to see where the story continues for the next books. There you go. That's the second book I finished this year. Now I am tired and going to head to bed. So I'll see you for the next one. It is Friday, January 20th, and I am at work on this snowy day. But I just finished another book, so I wanted to share that with you. And it's another 5-star read, so I'm off to a good start for this year. And it's called The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. And I know I read a couple of Catherine Steadman books back in 2018, 2019, and liked her as an author, and still do apparently. This book was suspenseful, mystery, thriller, and the main character's name is Harriet, but she goes by Harry for short. And she has a secret from her past that she doesn't want anyone to know about. And she is dating this man, or I think she's engaged to him. I believe he is her fiance. And he comes from this very wealthy family, but she hasn't met his family yet, even though they've been together for quite some time, because he was skeptical about her meeting his family, because basically what he told her was they can be a lot to handle, and that they're different than a lot of other families. And him and his father even kind of have a little bit of an estranged relationship, partly because he was supposed to go into the family business but opted not to and went into a tech business for himself that has now become very successful. And as the story goes on, we find out that this family also has lots of secrets, likes to play strange games, and these games could have consequences or might not be exactly what you think. And as Harriet's going through the story and learning about the family, she's starting to uncover some of these secrets, but it definitely kept me guessing, kept me kind of surprised at times, and I found myself wanting to keep reading more and more to find out what was going to happen. So if you're looking for a good page turner and one that's going to somewhat keep you in suspense, I would recommend this one. I guess that's all I have to say about it for now. I did enjoy it, and I will talk to you soon when I finish the next book. Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 25th. I'm getting ready to head off to work, but I have another book to tell you about, an audiobook that I just finished called Dial A for Aunties, and I'm gonna have to check the author because I don't remember. Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Sutanto, and it was about a Chinese American family. Basically, the main character, Maddie, and her aunts, her mother and her 3 sisters, I believe. So 4 altogether. Their relationship, the language barriers that they face, and I guess I would describe it as being a pretty outrageous book in that you definitely have to suspend your disbelief for this one. Everything that could go wrong for a character pretty much does go wrong. And I think it's supposed to be comedy. I can see how it would be comedy. I wasn't laughing out loud at it, but I could still appreciate the comedic aspects of it. It's not the most believable book, but then again, it's fiction, so that's understandable. I rated it 3 stars. It does have a sequel, but I didn't like it enough to feel that I want to read the sequel. If you like crazy, outrageous, fiasco, comedy of errors books, then, or like over the top, I think you might like it. But just to give you a little bit of the plot, Maddie, we go back and forth a little bit during her time. So the family believes that they have this curse, that all the women in her family, their husbands will leave them, any man that they're with will believe them. So that's been instilled in Maddie since a young age, that the women in their family have this curse, and not to get too attached to any men, including the aunt's sons who end up leaving. And she does fall in love with her college boyfriend, but because of her aunts and her mom and their relationship, that doesn't quite work out, and she ends up getting set up on a date by her, I think it's her mother or one of her aunts. They pretend to be her on a dating profile and set her up on this date. So she goes on the date. The date does not go well. Terrible things happen, and it sets off a bunch of other events that carry you throughout this story. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, if that sounds like it'd be something interesting to you, something kind of outrageous, over the top, comedic, then check it out. But that's the latest I finished, and I'll be back with another book soon. It's Monday, January 30th. I had to run out to the bank, but I did finish a book at lunch and wanted to share it with you. It is called Woman in the Library, and oh goodness, I'm going to have to look up the author. Solari Gentile? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I rated it 4 stars. It was an ebook, and it was different than any other book I've read because it was a book about a book being written. So sometimes it felt very Inception-like to me. I've never read a book where it's kind of taking you through the process of someone writing a book. So this was the author writing their sections and chapters, but then they were receiving letters from somebody who was giving them critiques, maybe changes to make. So that was an interesting perspective on it, but it still was a mystery. So the book that she's writing, which is basically the story we're being taken through, was about 4 strangers who meet in the Boston Public Library unexpectedly because they hear a scream of a woman from another room in the library, and it kind of brings them together and they form a friendship and kind of try to figure out what happened to this woman, and some of them maybe even fall in love, but it takes you through all of that and them trying to figure out what happened. But as they're trying to figure out what happened, it brings about secrets about some of them as well. Can they really trust each other? And then you get to these letters of this person who is writing to her to try to give her critiques, what they think the book should be like, what they think she should change or keep, that sort of thing. But that person might also not be exactly who they say. Might add another little twist to the story. So there you go. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit confusing, as I said at first, to get into, to understand. But once I did, I very much enjoyed the story, wanted to see what happened, and rated it 4 stars, as I said. So if you like books set in Boston, about libraries, about stories being written, and mysteries, any of that, I think you would enjoy it. But now I gotta run, and I'll see you for the next book. It is Friday, February 3rd, and we are currently in an Arctic freeze, as they call it, which basically means today and tomorrow it's going to be below 0 with the wind chill. Very, very cold and windy, which is just adding to the cold. So it seems fitting that the book I have to share with you today is Conceal, Don't Feel, a twisted tale about Frozen, and Anna and Elsa from Frozen. And the author is Jen Kalanita. And so another fractured fairy tale to share with you. This one stuck much more to the traditional story, but the twist on it was, what if Anna and Elsa didn't grow up with each other and didn't even know each other existed? and how would the story be different. And it was interesting to see how that kind of changed things and where things ended up. But it was also interesting to see that within the story, they put many of the lines from the songs, because as I'd be reading them, the song would automatically pop into my head. And they included many of the elements from the original story while giving it this new spin and this new twist. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars, partly because it wasn't that significantly different from the movie, and it entertained me, kept my interest, but didn't really have any super big surprises or anything like that. Not that it should to keep it interesting, but that's just how I felt about it. So I rated it 3 stars. It was a pretty quick one to get through as well. It was an ebook that I read, and don't know exactly how many pages it was. I could put it on the screen, because when I read it digitally through the ebook, it gives me percentage and not so much the page number. So, I mean, I know I can adjust that, but I like seeing the percentage. So I don't always know exactly how many pages those books have, but I will let you know, because I'm curious how much shorter it was than some of the other books I've read. But I definitely think I'm going to have to do these books more than quarterly. I definitely think I'm going to have to do these videos more than quarterly, because here we are just at about a month, and I've been editing as I go, and the video before this clip is already at 17, 18 minutes, so probably with this one will be at about 20 minutes. So if I put 2 to 3 months worth, that's gonna end up turning into an hour video, which I would think is too long. So I will probably try to keep them around 20 to 25 minutes for you, and just whenever I get to that point, I'll call the video complete and share it with you then. So I'm not sure exactly what to call them, because they won't really be quarterly. So if you have any thoughts on what I should title them, let me know. That is all for the latest book. I hope that when you are seeing this, it is much, much warmer than it is here now. And I hope it's warmer for me too by that point. And I will see you soon. Good morning. It is Monday, February 6th. I'm getting ready to head to work, but I finished an audiobook this morning, so I wanted to share that with you. It's called The Heart of the Deal by Lindsay McMillan. And in this book, we're following Ray, the main character, short for Ray Lynn. And she's in her 20s and has this whole plan by how many days for her life of when she needs to meet the love of her life, when she needs to marry them in order to have children by a certain age, and her ups and downs going through that journey, and things not necessarily going the way that she had hoped or planned. And I rated it 3 stars, but it was definitely a book that got me thinking, and I found myself relating to certain aspects of it. It touched on a couple of things that I wanted to share and could relate to. One being kind of society's expectations or pressures on women, especially to meet certain milestones by certain ages. So, oh, you should be married by this age, you should have children by this age, all that trajectory that's been kind of put on women. And hopefully, I think maybe that's changing a bit, but I think a lot of women still feel that pressure on themselves, and kind of feeling like you don't measure up if you don't meet those certain milestones that society's set for you. Also, something that got me thinking was being in a relationship, let's say, whether it's romantic, family, friendship, whatever, and thinking that you can change somebody, and that if you just stick it out long enough, things will get better and things will change. While that may be true some of the time, my experience is that that's not always true, especially if both people aren't willing to put in the effort, or one person just won't meet you halfway, or not saying that people have to change, but won't grow and improve and all of that. Another thing that got me thinking was it touched on doing what is expected of us, or what we think society expects of us, or what we think is considered right versus what will truly make us happy. But also trying to figure out what that is and wondering if we are making the right choice. It's a hard book for me to talk about and explain, but I could definitely relate to it in some ways. At times it left me feeling frustrated, and other times a little bit sad. But I think it was realistic in some cases of what women in their 20s and 30s and maybe beyond experience. So I don't know if you'd call it a coming of age story, but it definitely touched on a lot of topics that sort of left me feeling conflicted for some reason. Definitely got me thinking, and things I could relate to from my own experience. But I think I'm going to end this book vlog here because I think we're probably about the 25-ish minute mark, and I don't want them to be too long, as I had said. So I'm going to end this one here. I'll be back with another one, who knows when, maybe in a month or so, depends how much reading I do. But let me know if you like this format. I plan to continue doing it in this format, but let me know if you would like to see anything different. Be sure to give it a thumbs up so I know that you want to see more book content and are enjoying this format. And I hope you have a great day, enjoy a good book, and I'll talk to you soon.